Burnham. No, Diet Coke today, man. This got me out of a head coach's meeting, so.
You're welcome. Questions for Coach?
How did the first full scrimmage of the spring go on Saturday? What were your kind of impressions and takeaways from that?
Yeah, I thought it went pretty well. We had about 90 snaps and a lot of good work. Certainly not clean, but you hope to continue to establish the fundamentals and techniques that are important, as well as a general understanding of the offense, defense, and special teams. And then you want to see a level of compete, and so I think we made progress in all those areas Saturday. It's also your opportunity to continue to evaluate the roster and some of the position moves we made and some that we're thinking about.
You mentioned those position changes. Anybody stand out that changed positions during that scrimmage that you took notice of?
Yeah, I think all three guys that we moved to the field backer spot, what we would call our Sam, Walker, Jenkins, and Lawson, all did a really nice job. I was pleased with the move, and we'll continue to work with those guys at that spot.
So you moved Kelly Lawson to Sam linebacker?
Mm-hmm.
From wide receiver. Why you didn't announce that? You didn't discuss that last week. So just what went into that decision? Obviously a long, lengthy guy.
I love guys like that. You look at a field backer we played with and won a Cotton Bowl with at Penn State, Cam Brown, who's currently with the New York Giants. Kelly reminds me a lot of Cam, maybe even a little better athlete. But a long guy, rangy, he is physical. I was aware of Kelly out of high school. I know his head coach there at Sharando, and Coach Hall always felt like Kelly was a better defensive player. When I watch his high school film, I feel like he's a better defensive prospect. And he was just doing okay at wide receiver. Talked with him about an opportunity to get on the field more quickly on the defensive side of the ball and what his strengths were, and day by day he's getting better at it. So I'm excited about him.
Was that after the first scrimmage too? The same timing on that. So he had been at wide receiver. That
Correct.
Full seven.
Correct.
Just double checking. Thank you.
You seem to have a lot of guys that you're cycling in at that field backer spot. I know it's new to this defense. Is that hard when you've not recruited? This roster is not recruited for that position, but it's obviously an important position in your scheme.
Yeah, that guy kind of has an S on his chest. He has to have safety qualities. He has to have linebacker qualities. It can minimize how much substitution we'll have to do if we have the right guy there. And we've played with a bunch of different body types and skill sets. At Vanderbilt, we had an ex-defensive back. He was a DB in the program for 2 years and was a high school corner. He was 6 foot, 205 pounds. Was arguably our MVP on a 9-win team and a top 25 defense. As I said, at Penn State, we've had 6'5", 220 that played DN and linebacker in high school. We've had Brandon Smith from right here in Virginia, played it as a sophomore and was a starter at 6'4", 235. We've had 6'1", 225. Guys with just different skill sets. But ultimately, the better we feel about that individual, the less substitution we have to play. That guy plays out to the big field. There's a lot of space, but he also at times has to connect to the box. So he's got to be physical enough to be a linebacker at times, but also have some DB qualities to play in all that space.
What were your impressions of the quarterbacks coming out of the scrimmage?
Yeah, I thought the guys made good strides. I thought there were explosive plays on both sides of the ball, but I saw some good things out of particularly the first two quarterbacks.
Brad and Tyler both said that they can see the benefits if this competition at quarterback's trending, where there's a clear front runner to naming a starter at the end of spring. That has impacts the summer program, is helpful. Do you agree with that? And can you see if this is trending in that direction, naming a guy and kind of rallying around him, sort of going into the fall and in the summer?
Yeah, I would love to be able to name a guy at the end of spring. I think from a leadership standpoint and shaping the offensive unit and the culture there, I think it would be beneficial to us. But if we're not ready to do it, we won't. I think we got a pretty good competition going on, and obviously what we've done with Connor, was one step in shaping that room and what's going to happen. But we'll see.
I know you guys are obviously constantly evaluating guys. What have you seen from Connor now that you've moved him around, and what are you looking for when he's moving around at certain positions?
Yeah, I think you have a guy like that. To me, again, I look at it through a defensive coordinator's eyes, right? And I see a guy like Connor that's fast and long and athletic. He showed us this week he's got ball skills. And when he's in the game, is he going to line up at quarterback? Is he going to line up at tight end? Is he going to line up flexed out at wide receiver? He's a matchup problem for linebackers, potentially for safeties. He just runs that well and is that kind of athlete. So you don't know where he's going to line up, and then also you got to make sure you like the matchup. He's a long guy that has a big catch radius, and you don't want a 5'10" guy covering him. So I think what I've seen, I was excited this week about what we could do with Connor in this offense.
One of the rooms that has a lot of experience is that DB room. What have you noticed from that group of guys, from Armani and Chamari, that are kind of leading the charge back there? What has stood out to you about the DB so far?
Yeah, to be honest, what stands out to me about Chamari is he is more so than anybody else. He's playing at the speed I need this defense to play with. He runs by people to get to the ball, snap after snap after snap. Putting him back on the third level rather than a second level player, he can get to more plays. He can play more of the whole field, and I'm excited about what he's doing. I think we still need a level of consistency at the other spots. I think we need between Breon and Armani and all those guys. We got to get to a level of consistency where we know what we're going to get within the coverage concepts, and we're still trying to build some depth back there.
What are your thoughts on the running back competition? Tyler said that's more of a work in progress than maybe the quarterbacks are in terms of trying to narrow down that list. And did you make any more position changes? You mentioned, moving Chance or Keyshawn or wide receiver, something like that. Did you do any of that yet, or still just kind of working through that?
Nothing significant. We've got a couple of plays where we'll line those guys up out there. We're messing with a lot of empty right now, and seeing what those guys can do, particularly Chance. But to me, that room, there's still more candidates, and you're not just trying to decide on one guy. You're looking for a couple of backs that you feel like you can win with, and so that's still, that's a good competition. There's some good candidates in the room, and so we need these next couple of practices to still sort through that.
Jalen's obviously the one with experience. Any of those younger guys jump out at you just in terms of making an impression to try to move up that pecking order?
Yeah, I think Keyshawn King, the explosive plays he makes, that's caught my attention. I think Malachi seems like the most well-rounded guy, picked up the offense very quickly and makes plays. I like what I've seen out of Chance. He had a really nice play or two Saturday. So I think it's a good group right now.
Have you seen much out of your defensive ends that you've liked this spring in terms of pressures or anything like that?
Yeah, I think C.J. McCray, I've liked him from the get-go. He's another guy that plays fast, throws his body around. I think Cole Nelson has surprised me. I've been impressed with him. And then I've been impressed with Taiwan. Taiwan's done a nice job, and I think he's positioning himself to have a nice senior year.
How have the Gunner and Braylon taken to the tackle spots in their first spring here?
Yeah, they're still pups right now. We just moved Gunner inside, from outside, and he's fighting a little injury right now that's keeping him from really diving into it. But I'm excited about both those guys. Again, I think particularly Braylon has position flexibility. I think the offensive line, they are subtly recruiting him daily, Coach Rudolph and the crew. So, right now we're giving him a fair opportunity to be a defense tackle here.
What goes into that subtle recruiting? Is it just
they
in
make-
battles that they're doing
yeah,
one-on-one
the
competition?
compliments that they pay him, and the way they bring him up, and so I do the same thing. I did it for years defensively, so I get it.
Have you decided the format of the spring game? And if not, at what point do you kind of figure that out and kind of put a plan together?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is going to be our health and who's available to make sure that we have numbers to play the duration I'd like to play, and I would like to get 2 true quarters in, game-like, and then the second half really is what is debatable, what we'll have to decide. And that could be decided day of, to be honest. The nature of snaps we get in the first half. Are we coming out of it healthy? To determine really what that second half looks like. Could be a running clock, could be shortened quarters. It'll be a little bit quicker deal than the first half, though.
You've mentioned before kind of how you guys have slowed down installation a little bit. As a young guy, maybe some of the early enrollees, because you've got a handful of them, how tough is it for those guys to kind of pick up everything at once, and how do you know whether you're throwing too much information at them or not?
Yeah, when they can't execute day 1 installation, day 2 installation, and you've had 4, 5, 6 practices, and if there's multiple guys struggling still, then that's on us, and that's where we need to make an adjustment. The thing that I've learned over the years, it takes years. It takes a spring, a summer, a fall, a spring, a summer, a fall. It takes veterans in a position to teach young guys. We're not there. Our veterans are learning this thing for the first time as well. So, the learning curve is slower, and we won't have the defensive package will not look like what it did at Penn State last year. That was years in the making, and with guys that are in their 4th and 5th year in the structure. So, we will select what we feel we need to be successful, to be challenging, to present problems, and give our guys the best chance. But again, you got to grow that scheme and that plan kind of from the ground up, like everything else, and continue to build on it.
Coach Glenn mentioned calling the quarterback room, what you could do outside off the practice field, 22 hours, I think he said. What have you noticed about the way those guys in that quarterback room have picked up everything you guys have been throwing at them so far?
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job. I'm impressed with those guys and their learning capacity and the decision making, and for the most part, I would say just in general, the staff and the players, new schemes, new practice plan, new structures, new meeting structure, all of it. They've really have grasped it well. I think there's been a lot of effort and meaningful attention by the staff and the players in having things run efficiently and being where they need to be and being on time and making practice and meetings work like they should. And that's, I'm not taking that for granted. Sometimes that's one of the challenges that the structure and the plan's rolling like it needs to. I feel we have that right now.
Let's go to Zoom, Mike Barber.
Morning, Coach. Your quarterback room has some real experienced guys and some real young guys. Big picture, long term, how do you view kind of the ascension plan at the quarterback position? How would you like to see your classes stacked, and what does it take to get to that point?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question right now. The quarterback position is the most fluid in this portal. When you go back and look at the quarterback numbers, it's atrocious, to be honest. So, what do you sign out of high school? What do you save for a portal? Does your backup stick around? Does he leave? There's all kinds of things that go into that. So, I think that's going to be a pretty. There'll be a lot of attention required in that area and making sure that quarterback roster looks like it needs to.
In past, coaches have always aimed to have a starter for 2 or 3 years and a young guy behind him. You mentioned the portal and guys just seem to get impatient and leave. Is that a thing of the past to have that kind of a quarterback room, or is that still what you strive for?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always going to want to recruit a young man out of high school that has a chance to come in and earn the job in year 1 or year 2 and be the guy, and maybe the conversation is he leaving for the draft, early, or is he going to stay for a final year? I'd rather have those conversations and, have a nice NIL deal for him to stick around and see it through. So, but, it's not always going to work that way. And so you have to have measures in place to protect the position and the team.
And last one for me on that front, but when you recruit, and obviously what you say to kids, what kids say to you as high school juniors and seniors, things change as they get older. You know them better, they know you better. But is there a component of recruiting now where you try to judge, is this a kid that's going to stick it out at that quarterback spot? Is this a kid that's willing to stick it out, or do you just have to kind of go with your best prospect and hope it works?
Yeah, I don't even think they know half the time, right? They're coming out of high school. Their plan is to come in and win the job and be a first-round draft pick. And, until they cross that bridge and things don't go the way they hope they would, will we truly know what's in their best interest, for them and their family. I know this, in every recruiting conversation I have in my office right now, I tell all those recruits and their parents I'm not interested in portal conversations. We're going to do our absolute best to make sure this is the right place for you and you understand what you're signing up for before you come here.
Thank you.
David Teal.
Brent, Brad mentioned earlier that he estimated so far through 9 practices that the quarterbacks, your 2 leading quarterbacks, have thrown about 1 pick each. That sounds like a pretty efficient ratio. How would you assess their ball security to date?
Yeah, it hasn't been a concern to me, to be honest. There's been a few thrown, but not to where I want these guys. I've always said, practice is the place where you test the limits, where you test your skills and
Recording in
abilities,
progress.
where you can make mistakes. I don't want guys to practice tight. Let's go. Let's see what we're made of and push the boundaries. And same way defensively, make a break on the ball. Don't be content to let them catch it. Let's go see what we can do. And to me, that's where you learn your boundaries and what your capabilities are in practice.
Yep.
In terms of the offense,
Recording stopped.
at the offensive tackle spot, we've seen walk-ons at both tackle spots for the second team. How important have they, like guys like William Jones, been to kind of get you through spring? And is that a spot? I know you're going to get a couple guys in the summer, but maybe the top priority out, that and defensive tackle, if you wanted to add a transfer, kind of this in the summer.
It's definitely a position we've talked about. Offensive line in general, being able to have a portal spot there, potentially wide receiver, potentially a defensive back, and we're still working through some things. Again, with some of the position moves on defense, seeing how guys develop here down the stretch, but like I said, I think that there's still enough spring ball left that guys could still kind of swing one way or another in our evaluation and what we can do with them this fall.
And then, but just how important have those walk-ons been to kind of getting you through
Absolutely.
the spring on the offensive line?
Yeah, those guys have done a good job. I think I love when you can look out there and you're watching a practice and you can't tell a young man's a walk-on. He's functioning just like everybody else, and he's doing his job, and he's got abilities, and I think that's a good sign. And our walk-on program is going to be crucial here.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.